So this is stage 4. This is where we start using some macros and some Power Query in Excel. Review is exactly the same as in stage 3. This is the actual review page, document that we were working on previously. And in Excel, things are slightly different. So on our standard details page, everything is the same apart from I've now added in this bill section. You'll see what that's for later on. It's just another cross-referencing item. Now we've got some output details already populated because I've run the update just now before I started recording. So I've got some details in here, and I've even got details in this second section as well. But what I will do is just to show you how different this is to the previous example. Obviously, we got all the plots and details on here. So if I jump back to here, and you can see we've got nothing measured to. Let's keep it easy. Let's do these plots over here. So if I go in again and I measure some close board fencing. We'll do some boundary fencing with slightly different size. We're going to measure to each change in direction. And let's even put some close board gates on there. Another gate, another one, and another one. Okay, so something strange going on here. We'll sort this out. But you can see once again, the layer hasn't been brought forward. It's been brought forward on one, but not on the other two. Very strange at the moment. I will sort that out. But here we're going to put these down to plots 48 to 51. And I better put the layer in as fencing. Come down here. Layer fencing. And they are plots 48 to 51. Where are our gates? 48 to 51. Okay, so that's all added. So what we do this time is we export to the CSV, but this time we don't need to open the file because we're not going to be doing copying and pasting. So if I just click OK, that's exported, overwritten the old one. So if I now jump into here, I've got a title here. Now this links me to where the CSV file has been saved and the name of it. In our Power Query, I'll just give you a quick look at this. In the editor. So what this does is it finds the source of all the data, brings it all forward. This is basically the CSV file. Put some headers in there, remove the columns we don't need. I've now filtered the rows into the order that I want. Unpivot other columns. So basically what I'm doing is, if I jump back to this, we've got a length and we've got a count. I want those all in one row. So here we've got them all in one row. You get a lot of zeros because there are no counts for certain items. So there's only a count where there's a gate. So here we've got a count but not a length. So we've created a lot of information we don't need. So then we can just filter the rows. So we pick up anything that has got actual quantity in it. Don't need the column with the attribute, the description in it. So remove that, change the type. So we've changed the type for the quantity to a decimal number, and I've relabeled what was subject to description. What we also do in here is we import all of our other tables. So the prices table, the post table, materials pages, materials page table, which is for someone else later on. We then start manipulating all the data to work out how many posts we need. So for this example, I've got the total amount of fencing. I merge to that the prices table, from which I can get the panel width, the number of posts per meter, and the post types. I've then done a custom column to actually work out the number of posts required. I've removed all the columns I don't need, and I've renamed the first column to description, so it matches up with the other tables we've been creating. I've got lots of other tables here, so we won't run through all of those, but basically you're taking the information either from the Bluebeam CSV or from the spreadsheet. You're importing it into Power Query, you're adapting it, you're merging it, just carrying out lots of processes to ultimately generate the results that you want. So if I close this one again, so the first one we've got is all the fencing details and the gates details. Closable gates, fencing. So we don't actually need to display this if we don't want to, because from these tables here, what we actually do is, for this one, I've got a helper column here. You'll see why in a minute. So the tables we produce are these. So we have got all the different types of items, the different types of closable fence, gates. These are the posts, because we've got a few more details on the posts in this one. So, and plots 1 to 5, 6 to 9, etc. So the costs are all the values are all broken down. We've got total here, but everything is done within the groups. What I've also done on this one is this helper column actually picks out, you can choose. So if you just wanted the labor in here, that's the labor value. Materials and plant, or the total. So you can look at it in several different ways. Or if you wanted to, you could have this automatically generate a table or report for each of those items. From this as well, quantities of each type of fence, they're automatically generated, broken down into the groups of plots. Also what's generated, labour, plant, materials, total values again. Once again, this value here and this value here match. So what we haven't done is refresh this. So we did measure plots 48 to 51. So in order to update this, if I click on this button here, when I do this, you'll see some of these bits here updating or refreshing. So if I click on this, you can see a few bits spinning here. And that's basically pulling in all the new data. And there you go. I've got a bit of formatting to do here. So plots 48 to 51 are now added in. Here, plots 48 to 51 are added in. And here they are as well. So we've got all the extra detail. If we wanted to filter on those items, everything works. So although it's not dynamic like stages 1 and 2, where you're using just the normal review setup with a legend or quantity link, you can see from this, it is just literally a case of export from here. You don't have to open the CSV. Once you've done that, all you do is come back into your spreadsheet, hit refresh all, and everything updates. That is it. There's no copying, pasting. So these kind of reports are actually pretty similar to what we created in stage 3. It's labour, plant, materials, overall lengths of fence, all broken down into the plots. But what you can also look at is here, we also had the number of hours for each item. So this is another table set up in created from Power Query. And what we've done with this one is we've actually calculated how many hours, man days are required for completing the works. So we can give the guys targets, or after they completed plots 1 to 5, if they've done if it's taken fencers 70 hours and a labourer 70 hours, then we're within our targets. If they've taken 85 hours each, then we know we've got a bit of a problem and we need to look into what's going on. So this sort of stuff is very useful for that. The other thing you can do with Power Query is you can start introducing new items. So what I've done on this table is I've started looking at closable fencing, and I've started saying feather edge boards. This I need each feather edge board covers 75 millimeters. Arris rails are 3 meters long, and I need 3 per section of fencing, 3 high. I need a centre stump for each ground lower Arris rail. Then I've broken out for the closable fencing at 3.6 metre centres, so I've got feather edge board again. I've used a slightly different size here. Arris rails are 3.6 metres long. Centre stumps, because it's a 6.6 metre span instead of 3 metre, I've said I want 2 of those per fence panel. I've also added in a capping rail and a counter rail on this to finish off the top of the fence. Closable gates, I've started adding in details like you want 1 number gate, you want the hinges, you want a latch for the gate, and you want a padbolt. Large lat gates similar, and catches, large lat, just a panel for those. post and rail fences, you want the cleft fence rails. Now you've got all of those details, and what you do in Power Query is you basically combine those with your fencing details and your quantities, and it will produce a table for you saying plots 1 to 5, fencing section, arris rails, you want 111 number, stumps, and it basically breaks it all out for you. So there's a lot of detail there. So if I go into the Power Query for that, just to give you a quick example, source data, this is what we start with, which is all our fencing measures. Remove the columns we don't want, so we're just left with the description, plot numbers, unit, and the total quantity. I then merged the details from our other table, and it creates lots of information for us to use. I replace certain values and do certain manipulations to this, working our way through, add a few custom columns, working out quantities, etc. But there's a process to all of this, and it does take some learning, but once you've learned how to do this, you can use it in so many different ways. This bit here is where I've kind of broken out from the plot numbers. I've broken out the first plot number, so we can sort on that row. Sorry, that column here. So we've sorted all the data based on that, so we can see everything's in order. Then after we finish sorting it, we can get rid of it. It doesn't need to stay there. And Power Query remembers all these steps and processes you're going through. So if I close that now, what you can actually generate from this is fencing, arris rails, that type of arris rail, how many you need for plots 1 to 5, 6 to 9, etc. Next type of arris rail. So basically what you're creating is a list of all the materials that you could need, the total quantity for all of them, and then exactly how much you need for each area. So plots 1 to 5, when you go there, you know you need to call off these materials. Jump onto the next stage. And after you've finished each stage, what you can do is actually compare what you've used against these allowances. Once again, you can see how you're doing on the job. So this all automatically updates. As soon as you hit that refresh all button, everything across this whole spreadsheet updates. You don't need to see these columns here. You don't even need to output these tables really. So you don't have to have that. So you could just be looking at that as your output page. Once again, then all you'll see is from here. So hopefully that gives you a brief explanation of how to use Power Query, and it gives you a rough idea of the sorts of information you can produce from using Power Query along with Revu. Now, as you've seen working through these are work in progresses, these examples. They're not finished. What I will show you next is in the next video is some demonstrations, quick overviews of some setups where everything is finished, all the formatting is sorted out, etc. So hopefully that made some sense, and I will finish this video here.